Game week 27 in the Premier League. I'm going over lineups, and there's a lot of questions. Hopefully, I'm going to have some of the answers here. Hey, it's Adam Zdroik over RotoWire. Going over 10 matches in game week 27. I'm going to be using our cheat sheet over at RotoWire, rotowire.com/soccer trial. That is a 48-hour trial to use this cheat sheet. We got the odds report here. Arsenal, the biggest favorite away to Sheffield United, 2.52 implied goal total. We got some questions. We got, I don't know, about half the teams played in FA Cup matches on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that led to more injuries. That led to more questions as we look at lineups here. So let's start it again. Again, we don't have the super early Saturday morning match, which for Americans is a little nicer. We have 6 actually at the same time Saturday morning. But this first one on the cheat sheet, we got Tottenham home against Crystal Palace. I got Udogie coming in back into the starting 11 at left back for Ben Davies. Tottenham's last match was that kind of disappointing game that they had, and that was the 2-1 Wolverhampton loss. I didn't make any changes here, but it's just another week. They didn't have the FA Cup to worry about. I don't believe Tottenham are one of the teams we haven't heard from Postecoglou yet. I don't think Pedro Porro is going to be coming back for another couple weeks, but I think Udogie's going to be an option in this one. So he's back in the 11. Again, we could see Timo Werner come in. We could see Brennan Johnson come in. Probably over Kulusevski kind of a thing. I think, Son, Madison, and Richarlison, I think those guys are kind of set in their spots. Maybe not Sarr and Basuma with Bentancur coming off, with Bentancur an option as well, but that's kind of going to be a question the rest of the season. As long as these guys are healthy, it's going to be a question of who's starting, what's the rotation look like in the front four and at defensive midfield. But I got pretty similar to what they had last game, though, again, because they lost. Maybe Postecoglou want to mix things up a little bit more. Crystal Palace, no changes here. I think this is going to be the third straight match of no changes. So Oliver Glasner, technically had the first match in which he was managing Crystal Palace, and they kind of destroyed Burnley 3-0. A red card helped in that one. We haven't heard anything yet. I doubt we're going to get Eze back. I see the questionable mark here, but I doubt we're going to get him back. Gahey confirmed that he's going to be out for another couple months, so he's not going to be back. So we're probably looking at this Joel Ward, Anderson, Chris Richards, back 3, and I see no reason for them to mix it up after what happened last game. So, again, no changes there for Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest, maybe some changes. They did play. When did they play? I think they played Wednesday. Yeah, it was against Manchester United. And Hudson-Odoi did not start that one. He'll probably be back in the 11 for this one. Origi actually got the start there. Ryan Yates started over Dominguez. But I think this is kind of like a pretty set front 6 for them. As long as these guys are healthy and ready to start, I think this is like the set front 6 that Nuno wants to use. With these 4 attacking players, and then Nicolas Dominguez and Danilo kind of in defensive midfield roles. Nico Williams at right back, and then maybe a question of Niakate at left back or Toffolo. Toffolo started at left back against Manchester United. Niakate scored a goal in the 4-2 loss against Aston Villa. I mean, that's a situation where, it might change every match kind of a thing. It's clear that Nuno isn't a massive fan of Harry Toffolo because after Nuno Tavares went down last week, he decided to put Niakate in over Toffolo at left back, even though, we have a pretty large history of Toffolo starting for Nottingham Forest at left back this season, whereas it wasn't really the case for Niakate. So I'm going with Niakate again. Felipe Murillo on the back line. Liverpool are one of the questions here. What are we going to get from them? Of course, they rotated pretty heavily on Wednesday against Southampton in the FA Cup. So I guess the question here is, it's been a little more than a week now. I guess what the EFL Cup final was Sunday. So we haven't had Darwin Nunez back. We haven't had Salah back. We haven't had Szoboszlai back. I heavily doubt any of those guys are ready to start. If they weren't available off the bench Wednesday, are they going to be available to start Saturday? Probably not. Really doubt Gravenberch is going to be an option as well. So I guess the question will be, what's going on with Endo? I'll click on his profile here. We'll probably get an update Friday on him, but okay, proper knock. I think it was to his ankle. Didn't improve as of Tuesday this week, so that was a couple days after the Cup final. Is he going to be able to recover? If he's not ready to recover, that's when there's more questions than what we currently have. So we could be looking at O'Connell in the midfield. We're kind of looking at the teenagers is what we're looking at if Endo isn't ready, because that's kind of where we're at. So here we go. We got Andrew Robertson at left back. Tsimikas, I believe he went the full 90 on Wednesday. Konate was also rested Wednesday, so he's going to be back in there. Robertson's will be back in there. Connor Bradley moved back to right back in Wednesday's match, and Joe Gomez moved to the midfield. So without Endo or McAllister in the midfield, Joe Gomez was kind of in that central defensive midfield role. If it's McAllister and Endo both starting, maybe that's not going to be the situation. But because Liverpool have a bunch of teenagers and it's unknown what the injury status of a lot of these guys is. This midfield of McAllister, Endo, and Gomez seems really unlikely, but the options are just few and far between. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Otherwise, Diaz was rested Wednesday. He's going to be back in there. Harvey Elliott has been playing a ton, but he's still young. He's racking up minutes, but he's good to go. Gakpo good to go as well. So that's what I got. I don't know. This midfield, I guess, is kind of what I didn't really think about it before, but we're probably not going to get these three midfielders in. So who are we going to get? I said O'Connell. I meant McConnell earlier. Bobby Clark started in the midfield. McConnell started in the midfield. I guess that's kind of what we're looking at, because otherwise there's just not, unless Klopp really mixes things up. I don't know if Robertson playing the midfield. Maybe you start Tsimikas and play Robertson a little more forward, something like that. Gomez can play a little bit everywhere, but do you want to play him with McAllister and Endo? Maybe not. So there'll be something to have my eye out for once Klopp has his press conference, which will likely be Friday. Newcastle. So I went back and forth in this a bunch on left back. So Dan Burn has been dropped a couple times. I believe he started on Tuesday, I think, Newcastle's FA Cup game. But they basically, after Dan Burn was getting roasted by numerous speedy wingers, Livramento started. He started against Arsenal, is what I believe here. Yeah, he started against Arsenal, and again, that didn't really work out. Arsenal just dominated that match. But do you want Dan Burn in against Pedro Neto and Sarabia on the wings, or do you want Livramento? I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I was originally on Dan Burn. He got the start midweek, so maybe we go back to Livramento. So this is the one question here. I'll say I'm close to 50-50 on terms of Dan Burn or Livramento here. Given how frequently Dan Burn has been roasted by speedier players on the wing, and teams seem to be attacking that side, which is kind of where Pedro Neto will be operating. I'm leaning Livramento, so that's why I have Livramento in here now. Otherwise, they're getting a bunch of guys back. Probably going to see Guimaraes, Longstaff, and Lewis Miley getting starts again. Ellie Anderson returned from his back injury midweek, so he's going to eventually come in for Lewis Miley. We'll see. Maybe Miley has been good enough to keep his role, but maybe a little more rotation than we've been seeing. We could also get Jacob Murphy in the starting 11 over Almiron, but we're probably going to get Gordon and Isak. Harvey Barnes also an option from the bench, but I'd say Jacob Murphy has a slight chance. Almiron maybe 60-40 to start, but because he didn't start on Tuesday, I'll say Almiron starts here. No massive changes for Wolverhampton, but Hwang, Hee-Chan actually picked up a hamstring injury on Wednesday, and it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready. It's very minor, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready to start this one. So I got Bellegarde back in the starting 11 with Sarabia, Pedro Neto up there. Otherwise, no changes. Wolverhampton really haven't been changing and really haven't needed to change because they just haven't had a ton of injuries. I don't have any changes here for Fulham either. They had a bunch of success in their last game. Yeah, they beat Manchester United. That was the game. So Kearney came off the bench for that one. They basically Sasa Lukic replaced João Paulinho as the more defensive midfielder. The option I would say would be maybe Kearney starts over Harrison Reed, but Harrison Reed started last game, had some success, so I'll say Reed and Lukic back in there. And I think they like the Iwobi and Harry Wilson on the wings. I've been saying it every week, but Iwobi is a massive difference to their team. Also, the back line, Bassi returned to the starting 11, moved Tim Ream out. Also, Adebayo is preferred to Issa Diop. Brighton is a mystery team. Brighton will be a mystery here. As you can see, I did change this morning, actually. So they played yesterday, and I'm not sure we're actually going to get a press conference. Sorry, De Zerbi talked after Wednesday's match. So that might be all we're going to get from them. So Denny Wilbeck came off the bench, so he's going to be good to go. He should be ready to start. We're going to get a Dingra. We're going to get a Dingra and Buonanotte up there. So we know about those guys. Ansu Fati got the start in Wednesday's FA Cup match. Didn't really impress. I don't know if he's going to be starting again. Julio Enciso isn't ready to start yet. Adam Olana is also an option. He's healthy again. He's just a guy who starts, goes 45, then someone else comes on. So he could be in here. But they did this 3-4-2-1 in Wednesday's FA Cup match, and they also did more of the 3-4-2-1 when Miedema was out injured. When he was out at the Asian Cup. Pretty much when Miedema has been available, it's been a 4-2-3-1. Without Miedema, they've kind of changed this 3-4-2-1 kind of look. So I'm back here. They didn't do it last week in the game against Everton, but I think they're going to come back here, and that's what they did in the FA Cup. So questions will be, is Estupiñán going to start? He hasn't seen a lot of starts in the Premier League, but he started, went 90 Wednesday. De Zerbi basically came out, I think it was on Tuesday, and told everyone why he wasn't playing Estupiñán, because he was just disappointed in his training levels and disappointing in his effort, kind of a thing. But it comes to a point of who else are you going to play? If you're so pissed at Estupiñán, who else are you going to play? They started Popian on the wing. I think that's how you say his name, Popian. He was on loan at Cheltenham Town. The first half of the season, and then he actually started and went maybe 45 minutes Wednesday. Those are the options we're looking at. And with the suspended Billy Gilmore, I have Jakob Moder in there. Jakob Moder he was out for almost, 2 years because of a constant tore his ACL. I think he tore a couple different things there. But he went 63 minutes Wednesday. It'd be either him or Baleba in the central midfield role next to Pascal Gross, because they don't really have anyone else. They sent De Hood back to Borussia Dortmund, so he's not an option either. Lamptey, I'm not sure he's going to be ready to start. I'll say 50-50 on Lamptey. I actually think Estupiñán is going to be more likely to start than Lamptey this week, just because we have Lamptey with seemingly a hamstring issue. Doesn't seem major, but it was mentioned. Didn't miss Wednesday's game. Joel Veltman is not 100% healthy either. We also got the question of Evan Ferguson. If Evan Ferguson's ready to start, maybe they do go back to the 4-2-3-1, but I'm leaving it like this. That was about 5 minutes on Brighton, so let's move on here. Everton. We got the Sean Dyche press conference this morning. So Idrissa Gueye went off with a groin injury last weekend. Didn't really get a massive update on him. And then Amadou Onana, who has had a groin injury himself throughout the season, I guess, I don't know, heard it in training this week. So he's also has a mark. Andre Gomez is returning from an injury back in training. Doubt he's going to be ready to start. So there are pretty big questions here in the midfield. I assume one of those guys is going to be able to start. I got Onana in here because I don't believe his injury was suffered in an actual game, but really, it's a toss-up. I'd say we're looking at 40-40-20 with Onana, Gueye, and then Andre Gomez. I tweeted out earlier this morning about the last time Everton didn't have any of those guys in the middle of their midfield. They were kind of hammered against Fulham, though they didn't allow a goal. I think Dwight McNeil actually played in a central midfield role in that game. The other options to come in, so Ashley Young will be an option. Maybe move back to Corey and do a central midfield role. I guess as an option because he hasn't always been this attacking midfield type player. So maybe Decore moves back. You get Ashley Young in there. I don't know. You do some weird things, but maybe one of these guys, maybe Onana is going to be healthy enough to start. We'll see about that. West Ham, look at this. No injuries, no suspensions. Yeah, they're the only team currently perfect here. And they're coming off a pretty nice win. So they got Pocket back from his injury. Massive boost is aside. And this is pretty much, this is the same lineup they used. Actually, it's not. I'm actually going to change that. I'm going to put Mavropanos in for Aguerd. So that is a mistake on my part. I overlooked that one. Mavropanos started in that last game. It's been kind of going back and forth, but Aguerd was dropped and they did win. So I'm going to go back to Mavropanos and Zuma on this West Ham back line here. So that is an update. I just did that. Brentford, look at these injuries. They could go back to a 4-3-3. I thought they were going to do that last week. They did not. So now there's a report this morning about Ben Mee could be out the rest of the season because of an injury he picked up. That's another defensive injury. So Ben Mee, Rico Henry, Aaron Hickey, Ethan Pinnock. This is not a good situation. Does that mean they should go to a 4-3-3? I don't know. But they do have, so Iger is available, Zanka is available, Nathan Collins is available. That's basically more or less three backup center backs that they have in this back three. So good luck. Good luck against Chelsea here. Sergio Reguilon was roasted in the game against West Ham. Now he's going to be going against, Cole Palmer and Raheem Sterling. We'll see about that. Madge Rurslev did not start that game. I put him back in here because he is more of a defensive option, and you got to think you'd want more defensive options than having Keane Lewis-Potter on the wing. I know Keane Lewis-Potter was decent in that game from an offensive perspective, but Mads Rurslev is a little bit more defensive, and I think you kind of want that more defense in there. And then also Matthias Jensen is out. This is what their midfield was last weekend. With Nordegaard, Onyeka, and Janelle, a little more defensive. Jensen, just the minutes haven't been there. He's been in and out of the starting 11 for the past week or so. And then Tony, I got Johan Visa coming in for the starting 11 over Neil Maupay. Though it could be Maupay. Again, that 4-3-3, I think, is a possibility, but I'm not – I don't know. This is a tough one, I'd say. So Chelsea, I don't think we have any changes here. Thiago Silva, I'm not going to put Thiago Silva back in. Levi Colwell has been playing really well. He's next to Disasi, Chilwell, Gusto, all these guys. No real changes here. They played on Wednesday. Gallagher got the winner off the bench, but so Sterling, Palmer, Jackson, that's basically been preferred. We had the new injury update of Nkuku, who's going to be out another few weeks. So that's another tough injury for Chelsea. Luton Town, haven't really heard too much about Amari Bell. He went out. Was this Tuesday? It must have been the however many goals that Holland had and however many assists. He had 5 goals. Sorry, he had 5 goals, right? Holland had 5 goals and De Bruyne had 4 assists, I believe it was. But somewhere in the middle of that, Amari Bell went off in the first half with a supposed injury, maybe to his well-being after being roasted by Holland, something like that. So Amari Bell is the question here. If he isn't ready to start, it'll be Reece Burke. The midfield, I put Jordan Clark in because he was preferred in the midfield and he scored 2 goals in that game against Manchester City. I don't think Lakanga is going to be ready here, but the other option, I initially had Peli Rudak and Panzu in here. So he would be the other option, maybe a little more defensive than Jordan Clark. Either way, I think whoever starts next in Ross Barkley, we're looking at 60 minutes, something like that. I do have Andros Townsend back in here. Probably not going to happen. But so ever since Adebayo went down injured, they started Collie Woodrow, and they just haven't looked very good. They haven't looked as good. I don't know why Collie Woodrow's getting all these starts. Just kind of, I don't know. So they have Chung, they have Townsend, they could move Agbene into a more attacking role. I think I tried that last week. They could move Agbene into one of these more attacking roles, put Issa Kabore on the wing, something like that. But I don't think you need to start Collie Woodrow in there. I don't know if what exactly he provides in your attack, especially when you have the options to move things around a little bit. But Edwards is Edwards, so maybe Woodrow's going to get another start, maybe not. So that's what I got there. Chong getting another start. I put Townsend in. We'll see what happens. Aston Villa, I moved Ezri Konsa back. He's the preferred right back over Matty Cash. I moved him back in. He returned to training earlier in the week, so hopefully he's going to be ready to start. If not, it'll be Matty Cash. Say we're about 50-50 in terms of what's going to happen there. Haven't seen an update on Pau Torres. It didn't seem like a major issue. Set for hamstring scan, and that was a few days ago. We haven't really heard anything. We'll see. If it's not Pau Torres, we could get Ezri Konsa at center back and then Matty Cash at right back. So something to keep an eye on. Otherwise, Callum Chambers came off the bench for Pau Torres last game. Otherwise, no other changes. Anialo, Moussa Diaby, doubt we're going to get those guys in the starting 11. Unai Emery's been kind of going with this ever since Kamara went down. It's pretty much been these 6 guys with Tielemans racking up a bunch of minutes. Let me just look at his profile here. 89 minutes, 81 minutes. So a lot of minutes there for Tielemans. Burnley, what are we going to do here? Jordan Bayer, I guess, is getting close to return. I don't know if he's going to be ready to. We'll see if company says anything relevant in his press conference, but he was mentioned last week of getting closer. So if Bayer returns, we'd probably move him in for Dara O'Shea. Charlie Taylor moved back to the starting 11 last game. So that moved Hans Delcroix out. And then we have a suspension to Josh Brownhill, which moves back Josh Cullen in the starting 11, which has been fun. The rotating central midfield for Burnley. Josh Cullen was a regular for the first 2-3 months of the season, then just dropped from the squad. No injury, just completely dropped from the squad. So that's pretty fun over there at Burnley. They're home against Bournemouth. Solanke missed the midweek game with some kind of knee issue. I don't believe it's to be serious. We're probably going to get Kirkesh back at left back because I don't think Lloyd Kelly's going to be ready to start. Cliver, this is kind of what I think this is exactly what they did last weekend. They did rotate a little bit in their FA Cup match. So Tavernier, Cliver, Semenyo, Solanke, none of those guys started on Tuesday. So I think it's going to be the same guys. No surprises there. Manchester City. What changes do we got? So Grealish was injured Tuesday. We could get Vardiol back. I don't think he's going to be ready to start. I moved out Akanji, so we have Ake kind of on the left side a little bit. Stones, Diaz, Kyle Walker. Rodri was rested midweek. Kevin De Bruyne went 90 minutes in a 5-2 game against Luton Town, so clearly he is fit and healthy. Gotta think he starts there. And I guess the question will be, is Doku going to come in for someone like Bernardo Silva? But Foden and Alvarez both came off the bench on Tuesday. Bernardo Silva started, but he's a warrior and can play 90 minutes every day if he wanted to. So that would be the question. I'd say I'm still at about 60-70% that Bernardo Silva is going to start over Doku. So obviously if Doku starts, he'd be on the left side. Phil Foden will be on the right side. Manchester United, I got Anthony back in. The Forsen experiment didn't really work out too well. Maybe he gets another start. We'll see. But Anthony started. I think he went 73 minutes on Wednesday. Figure that's going to be the case again. Otherwise, no changes there. Harry Maguire doesn't sound like he's going to be back because Eric Ten Hag said no changes to the squad from Wednesday's game. So it doesn't sound like Maguire's going to be available. That means either we're going to get Amrabat at left back. Amrabat played left back in Wednesday's match with Lindelof and Varane playing center back. Johnny Evans is also an option to come in. If Johnny Evans started, he would likely start at center back next to Varane. Lindelof would move back to left back. Amrabat back to the bench. So either way, we're in a situation of Johnny Evans at center back or Amrabat at left back against Manchester City. So that sounds like a fun matchup for Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag, who Ten Hag has had. He always has interesting quotes, but his quotes have gotten just more interesting over the last 2 weeks. The latest is that he was complaining about Fulham's TikTok of, ripping on Bruno Fernandes for flopping on top of the box. But at the end of the day, maybe you shouldn't flop. Maybe then people wouldn't rip on you. So Eric Ten Hag, I don't know. Eric Ten Hag is a character, is what I'll say. Sheffield United, last game, I believe, was at 1-0 against Wolverhampton. Ryan Brewster played okay. I think he got the player of the match, I want to say. Ryan Brewster back in the starting 11. We did get a report from Wilder that Baldock is training again, Brereton Diaz training again. So those two guys could be available again. Are they going to be all right, ready to start? Maybe. So Brereton Diaz was an option. Maybe he'd come on to this left wing. Probably we're going to get the same center backs and Trusty Robinson, Ahmedovich, Vinicius, Norwood. I mean, this is against Arsenal, so how much does it matter here? Maybe Baldock comes in for Jane Bogle. I don't know. It's not a ton here. It's not a ton of thought process going in the Sheffield United lineup, if I'm being honest. Arsenal, this is the same lineup that they took out last game. And what I saw this morning was they're looking to give Jorginho a new contract just because of how well he's been playing and how well he's been fitting with the squad recently. So shouts to Jorginho. And I think, so Gabriel Jesus, maybe not ready for a start, but I actually think that this Kai Havertz in this false nine kind of role here instead of Trossard, I think this is what they want to do against Porto, because you could argue Newcastle, the way Newcastle and Porto play, pretty similar. And they absolutely hammer Newcastle with Havertz up front in this role. So I kind of think they're just going to keep using this until that Porto game, and they might even prefer having Kai Havertz in this role over Gabriel Jesus, with Gabriel Jesus coming off the bench kind of a thing. So I think this is kind of what they're going to be sticking with up until that Porto game. I think this is what the lineup we're going to get until that Porto game. Again, Thomas Partey might be on the bench. Tomiyasu and Zinchenko are getting closer to return. Neither not ready to start. So that's what we got, though. That's game week 27. Let me read a couple comments here. Opinions on parlaying Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal all to win. All right. Well, Arsenal, Sheffield United, I like that. Manchester United against Manchester United. Manchester City against Manchester United, I like that. Liverpool at Nottingham Forest. I like it. I would say this Liverpool are playing well. And I thought Southampton had a lot of chances to score earlier in that first half at Anfield against them. They couldn't do it. Nottingham Forest are struggling, though. So I do like the parlay of Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool, but I will say be wary of Liverpool at Nottingham Forest, especially if we're not getting Darwin Nunez or Mohamed Salah back in the lineup, especially even not back in the bench kind of a thing. So if you want more bets, we got our betting show is Kitchen Wagers Friday morning. I think we're doing 10:30 a.m. Eastern, me and Chris Owen. That will be live. So if you want more bets, we will be doing Kits and Wagers on Friday. And then we will have we'll try as much as possible, our usual DFS content on Friday. And then everything else. We also got a Sorare MLS article, which will be going up at some point today, written by Deke Matthews. So if you play Sorare, check out that article if you're interested in Major League Soccer players. Because this morning we actually got new card releases for MLS players. So that was happening in Sorare. But otherwise, rotowire.com/soccer trial, 48-hour trial. Here's the cheat sheet. Again, I was looking at the goal odds a little bit ago. Has implied goal totals. 4 teams expected to score at least 4 goals, and Aston Villa sitting right at 1.97. A lot of goals expected. These numbers are higher than, look at this. There's only 2 games with under 3 implied goal totals. That, I don't even know how many times this has happened, just because I think February or January? One of those months was the most goals scored in a month, or I don't know. There's been a lot of records broken in the Premier League in terms of goals scored, and that's kind of why these odds are creeping up a little bit, because people want to bet the overs. They're seeing all these goals scored. They're seeing these struggling back lines. We also got anytime goal scorer odds here. Holland is -120. Free kick tracker, always useful for any kind of fantasy contest. And then we have player per 90 stats. You got your floors in FPL. You got goalie stats per 90 minutes, team conceded stats, team stats. We got all this, everything on the cheat sheet here. Check that out, rotowire.com/soccer trial. That's all I got. Follow RotoWire Soccer on Twitter. You can also follow me at RotoZdroik. Any questions, hit me up there. Thanks for watching this. Good luck in game week 27.